without us. Da 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 da. Peekaboo. Alrighty.
I look huge in this one whenever you do see me, but I'm not as big as I look, I think.
You're on.
Alright. So we were talking about Gabriel Fernandez. He's an 8-year-old boy from Palmdale, California, who was tortured and murdered.
8 years old. Sad. Trying to use the mouse to move this.
Yeah, he was murdered in May of 2013. He was exposed to severe failures in the child welfare system. His mother, Pearl Fernandez, and her boyfriend, Izaro Aguirre, subject him to months of horrific abuse before his death. Oh, he's only 8.
That's horrible.
He don't look like he's 8. Well, I guess he could look like he's 8. He's,
They only lived with him for 8 months before they killed him?
Gabriel suffered extreme abuse, including regular beatings, being shot with a BB gun, forced confinement in a locked cabinet closet, and a forced consumption of spoiled food and cat litter. Cat litter.
Unreal.
The emergency responders were called to the home on May 22nd, 2013. Finding the boy unresponsive, he was declared brain dead and taken off life support on May 24th. So he was only on life support for 2 days. The system failed, though. Multiple reports of abuse have been made by teachers, family members, and security guard to the Los Angeles Department of Children's Services and local law enforcement, but the intervention was failed to protect him. The perpetrators in 2018, Izaro Aguirre, was sentenced to death. Good. And Pearl was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole after pleading guilty to first-degree murder involving torture. Well, good. He's 8 years old. He couldn't do nothing.
Wow.
You're supposed to be to protect your child. It's supposed to be a motherly instinct. Pearl filed a legal petition in seeking resentencing under revised state laws, but Los Angeles County judge denied her request, ensuring she remains in prison. Good. She don't need to get out. She shouldn't have had kids. 4 social workers involved in this file face criminal charges for negligence and child endangerment, shining a harsh light on accountability within social services. Yeah, you wanna play around with people that don't really need it, but this kid needed help, and you guys just let him go. Now there's a Netflix documentary which is called The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez, so you'd have to watch that. That tells a lot. The tragedy prompted reforms with LA County Child Welfare Agencies inspired ongoing child advocacy efforts through groups like Gabriel Fernandez to prevent further abuse. So, now Gabriel Daniel Fernandez. He was born on February 20th, 2005 to Arnold Contreras and Pearl Fernandez. Shortly after his birth, Fernandez was placed in care of his great-uncle, Michael Lemos Carazana, and Carazana's parents, David Martinez, in 2009. When Fernando was 4 years old, he went to go live with his grandparents after his grandfather voiced disapproval of him being raised by the same-sex couple. Fernandez remained with his grandparents until 2012, when his mother and her boyfriend, Eduardo, took him into their custody, and their family members expressed concern at this time due to Pearl's alleged neglect of her other children, which they think was going to happen. So, throughout his stay in the home of Pearl Fernandez and Izaro Aguirre, Gabriel was systematically abused and tortured. According to Gabriel's older brother, Ezekiel, This included beatings, confinement in a locked cabinet, shots from a BB gun, and forced consumption of cat litter, cat feces, spoiled food, and his own vomit. Ezekiel also reported that often laughed while inflicting the abuse. Prosecutors said that one of Aguirre's motivations for abusing Fernandez was his belief that the boy was gay. Wow. Jennifer Garcia, Fernandez's first grade teacher, made the initial report that the welfare hotline as Fernandez asked her questions about being whipped. Despite a social worker being assigned to Fernandez's case, Garcia continued to witness escalating injuries on Fernandez. She continued to call the hotline and was told each time that the social worker would investigate. However, no medical assessments were conducted, and social workers visiting the home spoke only with Fernandez's mother, never met interviewing Fernandez himself. Wow. On May 22nd, 2013, Fernandez was rendered unresponsive after a beating reportedly inflicted for not tidying his toys. Pearl called 911, and paramedics discovered Fernandez naked with severe injuries, including a cracked skull, broken ribs, and BB pellets lodged in his body. He was transported to the hospital where he was declared brain dead. He died 2 days later at the Children's Hospital. An autopsy concluded that Fernandez's death was a direct result of blunt force trauma aggravated by neglect and malnutrition. That's crazy.
This one says he was 7 when the abuse began. So he went through that for
like a year.
Yeah.
Oh, look at her. Whew. You can just tell by looking at her.
This one says he was also forced to sleep in a cabinet while gagged and bound.
Wow. That's crazy. I remember when this was going on.
Not moving.
I was just looking at that. It's like black
and what is that?
I don't know. Now you're gone.
Why is it doing that? That thing there. I got a dirt thing around me.
Maybe it's you. Pearl Fernandez had 4 children with Arnold Contreras, including Gabriel. She left Gabriel at the hospital 3 days after his birth, but retained custody of him in 2012. Fernandez claims that many of her romantic partners, including Aguirre, were abusive. Her aunt, Elizabeth Cazara, and Cazara's partner dispute this, alleging that Fernandez herself was abusive and controlling toward her partners. Additionally, Fernandez had pending charges against her for threatening to stab Contreras. Wow. Following Gabriel's death, Pearl reported abusing the opioids, drugs, oxycodone, and narco. Pearl Fernandez, though, she was born August 29, 1983 to Robert and Sandra Fernandez. During her childhood, her father frequently was incarcerated, and Fernandez alleges her mother was abusive and neglectful. At the age of 9, Fernandez began using methamphetamine and drinking alcohol, and at 11, she decided to run away from home. Her education ended when she dropped out of school in the 8th grade as a teenager. Fernandez reported experiencing further trauma, including alleged attempted rape by her uncle and being held hostage and repeatedly raped by a group of men, leading to suicidal ideation. Fernandez had 4 children. She was diagnosed with severe mental health issues, including depressive disorder, developmental disability, a possible personality disorder, and a post-traumatic stress disorder. A cognitive ability test in 2011 revealed verbal comprehension skills as a typical second-grade student. Wow. Clinical psychologist, expert witness for defense at trial, stated that Fernandez was virtually unable to use thoughts to guide her behavior and control her emotional reactions. She knew better than to do that, though. Don't tell me she didn't know. Even if you have the thing of a second graders know not to hit each other and do all that kind of stuff and shoot each other BB guns and crack skulls. And,
He looks like a mean mama, Jana.
Oh, yeah. Fernandez is serving a life sentence without possibility of parole.
Patrol.
Wow, I don't know where that came from. Fogging up here. Oh, I thought you wanted to hit bottles.
Clink.
She was admitted to the facility on June 21st, 2018, and then 2021 she filed a petition seeking resentencing, but they denied it. Fernandez filed a second appeal in 2026, which was also denied.
She filed a couple times and they keep getting denied.
Well, yeah, it said without the possibility of parole. I don't know what she thinks is going to happen.
Maybe she thought people
They think
were
they're just
going
going
to
to forget about it, but like, yeah, okay, that's been a couple years. I don't know what these people are thinking.
He's a cute little shit, too.
He was, yeah. Izuaro Tony Aguro. I don't know how to say his name. He was born June 13th, 1980. He was intellectually slow as a child, repeating 2 grades in school, ultimately dropping out during his 20s. During his 20s? Oh, during his 20s he worked as a caregiver. I'm sorry. My notes ran too long. No commas. Forgot to put a comma in there. He worked as a caregiver and driver at Woodland Park Retirement Hotel. Oh my gosh. He worked as a caregiver? He don't look like no caregiver.
Well,
if I seen that thing at me, I'd be like, what is this, security? Thinking it was an active shooter or something. The executive director of the retirement described Acquire as kind and gentle person, noting that he would frequently change diapers for elderly residents. Acquire met Pearl Fernandez approximately 8 to 24 months before they took custody of Gabriel. In 2012, Acquire, which is Tony, we'll say Tony, began working as a security guard for ADL Private Security in California. Now, Tony was charged with first-degree murder with special circumstances for torture, murdering, or Gabriel Fernandez. He was convicted by a jury and sentenced to death. He went in at 2018 to await execution. His execution date remains undetermined.
so why didn't she get served the same punishment?
Because he did most of the stuff and she knew about it and didn't get any help, but she did do some of the abuse too.
Right. So
but
he's
what killed him though. He killed him with what he did. She was a part of the abuse, but he is the one that actually did the killing. The blunt force trauma stuff. That's
I don't
why
care.
He got
If you know that someone's doing that to your kid, you deserve the death chair.
Well,
too.
she should go too, absolutely. I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
I cannot imagine even, oh my goodness, 8 years old. 7 actually. Because he died 3 months after he turned 8. So,
yeah.
7 years old going through that. Wow.
That's crazy, I know. Absolutely crazy. He shouldn't have went through all that. The mother should have been like, as soon as he started his shit, that mother should have been like, you know what? We're done. Bye.
So how long's he been in prison? Since 23?
2018.
18.
Uh-huh.
So why hadn't someone in there got a hold of him, seeing how he did this to a 7-year-old?
He's probably in protected custody. Well, he's on death row, so nobody's gonna get a hold of him. She might be in protected
Let
custody.
him out in the public.
Oh, that'll be his
Let them
death
deal
row
with
right
it.
there.
Save on our tax dollars.
Yeah, I'm probably working with overtime so you can eat there.
This one they're calling the real life Cinderella story.
No. We have another one. Because this one's kind of short. We have another one. This girl.
This one is 6.
She's 6 years old. This has nothing to do with this one. This is a total different case. But her name is ELISA EZQUIERDO. Esguardo. But ELISA, hers occurred in 1995 in New York. She was 6 years old, Puerto Rican, Cuban American girl who died of a brain hemorrhage inflicted by her mother, Awilda.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of name is Awilda?
It's the name the mama gave her, but it's called the real life Cinderella story.
No, I've heard it. I remember this story. This was back. I was 17 when this happened, and I remember this. She died of brain hemorrhage inflicted by her mother at the peak of a prolonged escalating campaign of physical, mental, and emotional and sexual abuse conducted between 1994 and 1995. I remember this. Her story made national headlines when it was discovered. The child welfare system, the Administrative Children's Services, have missed numerous opportunities to intervene to save her life. These failures to protect ELISA subsequently became the inspiration of ELISA's Law, a major restructuring of the city's child welfare system, increasing accountability of all parties involved in child welfare, reducing areas of confidentiality relating to public disclosure in cases of this nature. ELISA's Law was implanted in 1996. ELISA referred to as the modern-day Cinderella because she had first been under the protection of loving father and befriended Prince Michael of Greece, who had offered to pay for her private tuition until 12th grade before being placed in the permanent custody of her mother. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
She was born in 1989, February 11, at Wood Hill Hospital, Brooklyn, New York. Her father, Gustavo, was a Cuban immigrant who emigrated to the United States with aspirations to become a dance teacher. Her mother, Awilda, was of Puerto Rican descent. A couple met at a Fort Greene homeless shelter. Place to find the love of your life, I guess.
Happens everywhere.
I mean, can't say anything because people probably meet themselves on the streets, you know what I'm saying? I mean, people can meet on the streets and, come up with something good and, become not homeless no more. Awilda herself was a temporary resident, 2 years prior to Elisa's birth, where Gustavo worked part-time as a cleaner and caterer. Awilda herself was a temporary resident at the shelter, having been evicted from the apartment she shared with a previous partner, Ruben Rivera, with whom she had born 2 children. Due to the couple's failure to pay rent, in part due to excessive drug use, the two began a temporary relationship, although reportedly this ended when Gusto discovered Awilda. Well, at the time, pregnant with Elisa was a regular user of crack cocaine. Concern formed by her own family as her extensive use of drugs resulted in Awilda losing custody of her 2 eldest, Ruben Cinco and Casey, to her own family in 1989. When Eliza was born, social workers stated to the city's child welfare sorry. Some people just can't get it together over here. We have a microphone problem right now, but she's fixing it. I don't even know what happened. Let me see. I'm trying to think of what else are. Okay, when Eliza was born, social workers stated to the city's Child Welfare Administration and Children's Services that the child was born addicted to crack cocaine, and the result of her mother's evident addiction. Full custody of Eliza was awarded to her father, Gustavo, who, despite having no prior parenting experience, was by all accounts a doting, caring father. Now, just because you don't have any parenting experience doesn't mean anything, because I didn't have any parenting experience. I mean, I don't think anybody does when they first have a child. They're just their first one. Well, that's like her third, but I think his first one. He had no, which is whatever. I mean, I'm not saying nothing bad about that, because I know first time parents, it's just one of those things. But he says he was a doting, caring father to Eliza, attending parenting classes, seeking advice from relatives on how to care for his daughter. So he was really trying.
Right.
Organizing celebrations for her first birthdays and renting a banquet hall to celebrate her baptism at age 4. As one family member would relate, Eliza was his life. He would always say she was his princess. Preschool. We're on the preschool here. In 1990, he enrolled his daughter into a preschool, although shortly thereafter, his health complicated his ability to pay for Eliza's schooling. So Eliza was such an outstanding, promising student that Gusto saved such a dedicated father. Both teachers and the principal introduced her to one of the school's patrons, Prince Michael of Greece. In 1993, reportedly upon his arrival at school, Eliza leaped into Prince Michael's arms and stayed by his side for the rest of the day. He turned and offered to pay for Eliza's private tuition at the independent school until 12th grade. And she, in turn, responded to his gesture with a handwritten note expressing her gratitude. Occasionally thereafter, Prince Michael would send Eliza small gifts too, which would express her thanks by responding by withdrawings or notes. The same year she was enrolled in preschool, the social worker signed an affidavit stating that Awilda had successfully beaten her addiction and had secured a permanent accommodation with the housing project at Lower East Side of Manhattan, and had married a maintenance worker named Carlos Lopez, who she's now expecting her 4th child. In December 1990, had given birth to another daughter named Taisha. And she regained custody of her 2 oldest children. So she had 4 kids. 3 kids. Oh, she's about to get the 4th one. November 1991, she secured the right to obtain unsupervised visitations rights to Eliza. This ruling awarded her custody of the child of every second weekend. Reportedly, Awilda's 2 oldest children formed relatives throughout these unsupervised visits. Eliza would be beaten and neglected by her mother and stepfather. These relatives did not inform authorities of these revelations. Why would you not? Wow.
Oh my.
Both Eliza's fathers and her teacher noted the child bore bruising and other signs of physical mistreatment when returning from unsupervised visits. One of the locations was Eliza's genitalia, and the child did divulge that her mother, Elsa, had repeatedly hit her and locked her in a closet, and she had no desire to see her mother again. Her father also noted that Eliza began bedwetting in addition to losing control of her bowels. She regularly experienced nightmares upon learning she was to be in custody of her mother for even short periods of time. Another family acquaintance noticed that Eliza would always vomit upon her return from these visits and refused to enter bathrooms. Wow. Now, both Augusto Azardo and Eliza's teacher did inform authorities about during the hands-on of mother and stepfather, but revelations were disclosed by Eliza herself to the social worker. Her father did apply in 1992 to have Awilda Lopez's visitation rights ceased. However, the courts ruled that visitation rights would continue. Good job, guys. With the conditions, Awilda must not strike or otherwise harm her daughter. Yeah, okay. You see how
Okay,
that
yeah.
In 1993, Gusto formed plans to relocate with Eliza to his native Cuba. He is known to have purchased airline tickets for himself and his daughter with the travel May 26, 1994. However, in May, Gustavo was admitted to the hospital with acute respiratory complications due to diagnosis of lung cancer. He died May 26th. Wow. The same day he had been planning to travel with Cuba with her. Wow. That's crazy. So he didn't live long. Shortly after, Eliza asked her mother where her father was, and she said, screamed the words, "Your father's dead."
Nice lady.
Upon hearing the news of Gusto's death, the director of her school contacted a family court judge, expressed the grave concerns of both herself and numerous members of the school staff as well, saying her mother gained custody of her, of the school staff and child safety should she gain, custody. Upon hearing the news, Will applied for full custody, and she was granted temporary custody of the child. And upon hearing the initial award of her temporary custody, the cousin of Gusto and Eliza challenged the ruling and applied for custody too, citing the documented abuse and previous endured undersupervised weekend visits with the mother and the manner in which Awilda has spoken to the child. Both the head teacher of the school and Eliza still attended. The Prince Michael and Maurice also wrote letters to the judge opposing it. But let's see. Furthermore, the judge, Greenbar Prince, he said he still has intentions to pay for Eliza's education, and Eliza Canisby be awarded custody of that. Wait, Eliza's education, Brooklyn Fields, should Eliza Canizares be awarded custody of the child. Lacking sufficient funds to pay for legal fees, Eliza attended the court hearings without any legal representation, whereas backing Awilda's application for custody with a lawyer, of course, for the legal aid, and federally funded parenting program. All this at the hearing. Okay, why isn't this going through? Okay. Let's see. The hearing legal representation testified that valid reports refrained from relapsing into drug use, falsely claiming that the caseworkers have visited Lopez's residence and that Eliza has expressed strong desire to live with her Furthermore, Canizares was criticized by Awilda's legal representation at this hearing for having the nerve to try to take Elsa in from her biological mother. This accusation, Elsa Canizares replied, her nerve was born out of fear Eliza being placed with her mother. Awilda Lopez's application, permanent custody was approved by the judge in 1994. So she got it.
Her death sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Why, you'd think they would have done, like, visits where someone had to be there just to make sure everything was okay for a while with her doing the drugs and everything.
After she got full custody, her mother withdrew Eliza from the private school she had been attending and enrolled in Manhattan's public school, where she was quickly observed to be withdrawn, emotionally disturbed, uncommunicative, and urinated frequently. The principal of the school also noted that Eliza bore numerous bruises, walked with apparent difficulty, and had evidently begun tearing out sections of her hair. On March 14th, 1995, an anonymous letter was posted to the child welfare authorities The author of this letter stated that Eliza was admitted to the hospital with a fractured shoulder, the injury having untreated for 3 days. Wow.
And nobody's seen red flags.
Apparently not. A further factor decision was made. Daughter of Manhattan Child Welfare, subsequently home visit by staff at the school. Awilda by this time was known to revert to regular crack cocaine use, withdrew Eliza from public school in 1994, and she made no effort to enroll Eliza in any other school. Now, she had 6 children by this time. 3 had been born after Eliza. Awilda targeted Eliza for the most of the time. All the abuse was inflicted upon her. Eliza targeted Eliza for the most, all of the abuse she inflicted upon her children. After withdrawing from school, Eliza was locked in her bedroom, was denied opportunity to socialize with her siblings. Only the apartment, was denied access to the toilet, being forced to use a chamber pot. Neighbors reported hearing sounds of Eliza being beaten and otherwise abused. Later report hearing Eliza's repeatedly with her mother, "Stop hitting her," crying, "Please, mommy, please stop, no more, I'm sorry." The neighbors report suspicious of child abuse to child welfare authorities. However, no effective action was taken. Other neighbors report the abuse of Eliza, and to a much lesser degree her siblings endured but failed to notify authorities. They're probably scared shitless, though. Some neighbors noted that Awilda would refer to Elsa as Mongold, a filthy little whore who had been placed under a spell by her father.
Wow.
Crazy. Wow. A representative from a federally funded parenting program, which endorsed Awilda's initial motion to achieve sole custody of her daughter, also reported that Awilda herself phoned him complaining that her daughter was unable to control her bladder or bowels, had cut off her hair, and was apparently drinking from the toilet. In response to this phone call from Awilda, this representative did call a representative from Manhattan Child Welfare, who rebuffed his request to visit the residence. Wow. Cut over here up and everything. I remember this. It's been a while, but I remember this, though. Other indignities or abuse upon her daughter, such as they're witnessed by her siblings: repeated punching and kicking, forcing to eat her own feces or drink contaminated water, mopping the floor with her head and face, inflicting burns upon the child's head, face, and lips and body, sexually violating her vaginally and anally with a hairbrush or toothbrush, hanging her from a shower rod for the purpose of entertainment, and dropping chest of drawers on her ring finger and toe. Awilda's partner Carlos, himself a user of drugs too, is also known to have repeated physically abused, neglected, and Eliza and her 2 older siblings. On November 15, Carlos Lopez was jailed on revelation of violation of parole. 7 days later, the evening of November 22nd, Awilda phoned one of her sisters to report Elsa was like retarded on the bed. Like retarded on the bed. With fluid later determined to be brain fluid leaking from her nose and mouth. In addition, Lopez informed her sister that Eliza would not eat or drink. When Mrs. Torres insisted Awilda take Eliza to the hospital, she said she would think about it. After she had finished cleaning the dishes the following morning, Awilda contacted a neighbor who she invited to view her body, Eliza's lifeless body. Upon being able to locate signs of life, the neighbor told Awilda to call the police, which she refused to do. In response, the neighbor did, and called an ambulance as Awilda threatened to commit suicide. In custody, Awilda initially confessed to having thrown Eliza headfirst into a concrete wall 2 days prior to her contacting her neighbor, adding that Eliza had either talked or not walked after this incident. A subsequent autopsy revealed numerous injuries, including broken finger, one bone which was protruding through the skin. a broken toe, damage to internal organs, deep welts, and burns across her face and body and her head. In addition to her genitalia and rectum bore evidence of trauma, including tearing. 30 circular marks upon her body were found to be impressions left by a stone ring of the individual who had struck Eliza. Wow. Forensically, it was proven that the injuries have sustained over it was like over a period of time. Now, her funeral was held on November 29, 1995. The service was officiated by Reverend Gianni, who informed the estimated 300 mourners in attendance that Eliza had been murdered, not only by her mother, but by the silence of many, by the neglect of child welfare institutions. Prior to her burial, a wake was held, though those present at the wake funeral included relatives, neighbors, politicians, Prince Michael Grace, and others touched by the case. Her casket remained open through the ceremony. The extensive damage inflicted to her face and neck were heavily concealed with cosmetology. She wore a crown of white flowers on her head. A single rose was placed in her hand, and her coffin was adorned with white flowers. A Barbie doll was given to Eliza by her father, which she had known to have cherished, was placed alongside of her body. Many mourners placed additional flowers, toys, stuffed animals, notes of sympathy, and upon her coffin prior to her casket being closed. And the burial, let's see, at Cypress Hill Cemetery. Eliza's gravestone bears a plaque with the inscription reading, "World, please watch over the children."
Wow.
The sentencing. On June 25th, 1996, Awilda pleaded guilty to second-degree murder of her daughter in a hearing before the judge. Upon advice of her attorney, she pleaded guilty to this deal offered by prosecution, knowing she'd become eligible for parole after serving 15 years. The following month, Judge Schwarzger sentenced Awilda to 15 years life imprisonment. Prior to formal sentencing, he openly criticized the child welfare system. "We have not created procedures to do everything necessary to protect the young and vulnerable in this society. The system failed to protect our babies, and don't tell me how much it costs. If anything good comes from this horrendous tragedy, it will be that we give priority to these babies." Awilda Lopez is, she's eligible for parole in 2010. She was denied for parole in 2022, but released from the medium security in April 19, 2022. On April 19th. So she was denied in January, but released from the medium, so maybe she's in a...
So she's among the public, not in...
I'm assuming so. But released from the medium security system in 1992. Wow. Carlos, on October 29, 1996, Eliza's father, Carlos Lopez, was sentenced to serve between 1.5 and 3 years in prison to run consecutive with the sentence serving with Eliza's death. This was in relation to one specific instance, physical abuse dating from October 31st, 1995, in which he had repeatedly banged Eliza's head against the concrete wall in presence of her siblings. Although Carlos Lopez pleaded guilty to the charge of second-degree assault, claiming he had not actually assaulted Eliza, but he had opted to spare his children as the emotional trauma of having testified against them, the judge rejected this claim, adding, "Prosecution team has largely chosen Lopez with this charge to spare Eliza's siblings any further trauma." So he only got
3 years.
Yeah. That's crazy. All that. Now, and this other kid, these other two, they got like death and life without parole. Why couldn't these people gotten the same thing?
Exactly.
The public was outraged by this. Not only, the ongoing abuse suffering at the hands of the mother and stepfather. Not only a judge awarded custody of the child to her mother in 1994, despite the people telling her, you know, the family and the school, but numerous instances concerned, and they still gave it to her. The welfare by various individuals have failed to remove her from the custody. Following Eliza's death, the public funeral of her life story became a subject of media coverage, and yeah, they call it a shameful death. Eliza's story was featured on August 1996 on episode of Dateline NBC. That's something you guys could watch.
Can you imagine having to live with yourself knowing you're the judge that gave custody to that little girl's death?
Yeah.
I can't imagine having to live with yourself.
Well, I'll tell you what, Children's Services are a lot to blame for that. They probably put in there, oh, she's okay to have them. She's okay to have them.
Well, somebody didn't want to do their job.
Eliza's 5 siblings are raised in separate foster homes. Reportedly, all suffer acute psychological trauma due to acts of extreme physical, mental, and sexual abuse they have been forced to witness and inflicted upon their sister. That's crazy. But yeah, I remember that. I mean,
so
big
all
headlines.
5 kids, all 5 siblings actually witnessed all this going on?
Probably not all of it, but probably, yeah.
Yeah, look.
Yeah, because they said they witnessed...
5 siblings were raised in separate foster homes. Repeatedly, all suffered acute psychological trauma due to the acts of extreme physical, mental, sexual abuse they had been forced to witness. So...
I think they were probably just scared to death because look what they did to her. Can you imagine what they would think they're going to do to them, you know? That's probably what they were thinking. Well, if we say something... Well, I mean, look at it. Everybody, even teachers and everybody said something and they still didn't come.
That's terrible.
They're probably thinking the same thing. Well, why are we going to say anything? Nobody's going to come. And then if we do something, then look, that you know, what are they going to do to us? That's just crazy.
I just don't know how these people do this. There's such a little life like that.
Okay, so next podcast would be... I'm really not for sure because somebody here is going to leave on a vacation, so we have to figure this out.
Well, if I can get the calendar up, it would work.
I'm having the same problem. Okay. So our next one would be... Not the second.
My calendar's not coming up.
Well, okay, here we go. So it would be the 9th, but you're going to be gone.
Yeah, I know.
So we won't podcast again until... Let's see. Off work. Until August 23rd. Right? You got by now, won't you?
I'm just messing everything up. Hang on, let me tell you.
Oh my god. Oh no, because you've got this thing you gotta go to too.
We also got a Buffalo game, so.
Hang on. We might have to extend this. We might have to actually have Brittany take over one podcast.
The 7th through the 23rd. What day did you say?
23rd.
I won't be home yet.
Oh my god. Well, I'll tell you what we're gonna do.
And then
I'm gonna
see that following weekend. Brittany will have to.
I will see if Brittany will have to sit in for me, and I think she will like that. Okay, so Brittany is gonna, she shouldn't fail me on this one. She should be okay by that time. I mean,
I would hope.
We got a bathroom down here.
Yeah.
So I'll get together with Brittany and find out who she wants to do, and then we will post it who we're gonna do. But 8 o'clock If it's gonna be sooner, we'll know. And this one won't be here. She's gonna be gone for like 6 months. So, God, you're gonna be gone from like the 6th all the way. Man, you're gonna be gone this whole month.
Yeah. And then I come back for a minute, and then we go to
She
Buffalo.
comes back for a minute.
Yeah, I work 2 days, and then no, I work a day, and then I go back. I work a day, and then I leave again to go to Buffalo.
And then we work that weekend.
Yeah.
You suck. Well, we should be here for the weekend.
Sorry.
All right. So, August 23rd, 2026, 8 p.m. We will post on our page, Pure Evil Inside the Mind Serial Killers, who we are going to do. Brittany, well, she will help me decide since somebody else ain't going to be here. You know, like 2 in a row.
Oops.
Oh, wow, so you won't be here for the 9th or the 23rd. So Brittany's got to do the 9th and the 23rd with me. Wow. If we change our date to Saturday, I will let you know on our page. And I'll try to get up on YouTube and post it too. So the 3rd and the 9th. And I will get together with Brittany and we will post who we're going to do or what we're going to do. Or what's going to be handled. Maybe we'll just trash talk this whole situation. I don't even know. But she's going to be gone. They're going to Sturgis.
Maybe you can highlight somebody we did, like my favorite, Eileen.
We might. While she's already partying, we're going to be over here doing serious business.
I'll live view you. And you can see me in Buffalo.
She's going to be gone when our friend finds out if he's getting out.
Oh, well, I'm hoping you'll text me. I don't know if I'll hear
you'll see it all
because
over
I'll be
the news
watching
if that'll happen.
Youngblood.
Oh, man, I'm going to get on Youngblood like, listen, you got to tell this girl right now if he got out or
Abby and
not.
Sturgis drooling over a few people.
Youngblood's a good-looking guy.
He is. And he's not arrogant. But, yeah, there's the hairband before that, so that should be entertaining. And then just crush fingers I don't get bit by a rattlesnake.
Yeah, we're not happy about this situation, but the 9th and the 23rd, and like I said, if we change it to a Saturday, we will let you know. But it'll be at the same time, though, 8 o'clock. So, all right, we'll see you guys then.
Toodles.
Toodles.